Okay, all right.
We'll record all of it.
We will, we'll record everything and then they can take out what they want to. Oh, Jess is here. Jess! Are the girls here? Are they? Yay, okay. I'll get them a class then. Yay.
Alright,
I'm still sassy.
glad you finally got off the tables.
I know. I know.
I did not.
There's no bananas in this, is there?
I don't know, Bonnie. I don't think so, but I've only took one bite.
There's no bananas in that, is there?
Nope. I can't touch a banana.
The wrong size with the
Really?
Yeah, they swell their mouth up.
Just the smell of a banana.
Really? Hi, girls.
Oh, yeah. Look how available she is today. Jerry was it. No, no, honey.
Oh, cute. Why did you share that?
Okay.
If I catch just a whiff of a banana, I headed to the bathroom to throw up.
Me too.
Bonnie?
I'm allergic to them, but what?
You're not likely to ever see a banana.
You're supposed to go to third class and you showed up today.
Okay.
I'm gonna get the girls upstairs to class. I don't want Greg, it's
Oh, you're
class, I don't want Greg it over.
You're going to class, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to class with the girls.
Carry fast.
If Carrie Pat comes, if she doesn't, I'll take it back with me and bring it back next time.
Giving a plate.
It's that one from, that old,
Church plate.
it's not a church one, it's the, courthouse, Haley Courthouse.
Oh.
That Dad bought one time when he was getting a bunch of other odds and ends.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's got that shop right now with antiques and stuff in it.
Carrie Pat does?
Yes, she does. She's got, well, it's not her, I mean, she's the Valley, antique shop. She's got a booth there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's telling me about it yesterday. Anyway, I'm gonna have her sell it for me. So, goes to her. I've got it all wrapped up with paper.
Have we found someone?
Not that I know of.
Have we found someone? Oh, we found one.
Our choir teacher
Oh.
has taken another job. She's like, do you know of anybody? And so,
No time like after school starts, right?
well, that's when a lot of the things happen. That week or two before, they're shuffling
I
everything.
know. Well, like Becky, having to do that, whatever that.
Psychology.
Yeah,
She's excited though. And
I'm glad.
bring in art therapy and stuff. That'd be great. Turn things up on their head a little bit. Hi, Bill.
You agree to come to class or do you wanna go to the big class? It don't matter to me.
Sorry, we're getting a late start today.
You're starting in, okay.
I told him I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Okay, that'll work.
What's the matter with you now?
I said we're getting a late start.
Where's Annie and Jordan?
Sinus infection.
They're going to the big class.
Where's Annie and Jordan?
They both got sinus stuff going on, so they thought it might be better to stay home. Yeah, well,
But I mean, not
I know
enough
what you
to
mean.
stay home. Huh?
Right.
Are you ready to sing?
Anyway, okay. I can take my plate back. They're gonna go to class in the big class, so that'll work out good too. All right.
Okay, Jess was with me.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for another beautiful day, for bringing us all together. Thank you for the chance to get together again, see all these wonderful faces. We ask that you open our hearts, that we may take in what we need to this morning, and be with Bill as he gives your word to us. And I pray that you are with us throughout the week, and that we show others your love and continue on. Your name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, we're in 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16. Let's reread it because you guys weren't here last week. So. 1 Timothy 3, verse 16.
And without controversy, great is the mystery of godliness. God was manifested in the flesh, justified in the spirit, seen by angels, preached among the Gentiles, believed in the world, received up in glory.
Okay. All right. This is one of the mysteries you find in the Bible. And what's a mystery?
Usually something that you can't explain,
Something you can't explain?
kind of dumbfounded
Okay. And
until you either solve it or it reveals itself.
okay. How do we get it to reveal itself?
Investigate.
Yeah, we have to search for the clues. We have to search for clues and then follow the clues. And as we follow the clues, there's 6 clues about this mystery here. 6 aspects of this mystery. What's the first one?
Christ was revealed in a human body.
You what?
Christ was in a human form. The first line, Christ
Speak up.
was revealed in human body.
Okay. God
Use your volume voice.
would take on a body. Okay. Now, how do you get God in a body?
3:16.
Bible says that God holds the universe in the palm of his hand.
Yeah, it's like a little poem.
Okay? Now, that's the universe. We're a tiny infinitesimal speck of the universe. And we're going to put God in a body. Have you seen that M&M commercial where he's trying to get the fudge in the M&M? Well,
Doesn't work.
I like it.
that kind of hints at it, How in the world do you get God in a body? Okay. And why did he need to be in a body? Okay. Why did God need to be in a body? Well, the first aspect we're going to look at is he needed to be able to identify with us, and we needed to be able to identify with him. And until we could get to that, in the Old Testament, God was a very fearsome critter. And there's a whole bunch of Philistines' bones laying out dead on the desert that will attest to it. And if we want to be honest with ourselves, he's really, when we look at God and when we think about God, he's not really our buddy. He's not really something that, in the flesh, we want to be around. So, how were we ever going to identify with it? Well, if you turn to, there's 2 verses, Hebrews 2:16 through 18, and Hebrews 4:15 through 16. 2:16 through 18, and 4:15 through 16.
For surely it is not angels he helps, but Abraham's descendants. For this reason he had to be made like them, fully human in every way, in order that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in service to God, and that he might make atonement for the sins of the people.
Okay. So what's the first thing that had to happen? He had to leave the nature of angels. What's that mean?
Had to leave the heavens.
Had to leave the heavens. But what is the nature of angels? Are they physical? No, they're spiritual. So he had to stop being he had to stop being a physical being and become a man. Okay, why was that important? How would he identify with us if he became a man?
Well,
We could see him. We could see him for one thing, and he'd be just like us or similar to us.
Okay. if you go through Jesus' life, do you see moments where he struggled? Yeah. There's several times it says he went off to pray alone. He had to get away from the stresses around him, and he had to go be with his Father and be regenerated. He had to be regenerated. He had to get his strength back. He had to get his focus back, because he was being assaulted on all sides by the Philistines, and, by the Sadducees, and by the Pharisees, and by the high priests. Everybody was opposing him and taking issue with him. And it had a drain on him. And God doesn't know what it feels like. Okay? God doesn't know what it's like to be powerless and to be weak. Because all energy in the universe comes from God. I mean, he is energy. He doesn't know what that feels like. So Jesus had to take on that body. Remember the first task that he was called to when he went into the ministry?
Well, you're talking about his first miracle?
No, not his first miracle. In preparation for the ministry, what is the first thing he had to do after he got baptized?
He was
Immediately after he got
tempted.
baptized, what did he do?
He was tempted for 40 days.
The first thing, he was tempted, okay? After how long a period of time? 40 days. Doing what?
Not eating.
Fasted and praying. Okay. Have you ever fasted?
Not for very long.
Not for long.
A couple hours.
Just between meals.
Okay. What do you think a 3-day fast would be?
Oh, God.
Torture.
It'd be bad.
It'd be bad.
It'd be rough.
Because how often do you go through a day without 3 meals?
Really?
I do, but it's just because we're.
Fairly often, but,
Yeah.
but I don't know about you, but even between meals, I'm picking, I'll open the refrigerator and grab a few grapes. I'm always drinking something, I'm always nibbling on something, well, look at me, tell me. And so we are constantly feeding our body. We are constantly maintaining. Okay. What do you think about a 7-day fast?
No.
No thanks. No thanks.
I have done a 7-day fast. Okay. Why would you fast?
Is
Why?
fasting no drinking either?
Oh, no.
You can have water.
You can have
I
water.
was gonna say, but you
Have water.
Yeah,
But Jesus' fast, he said he didn't have water. Can you imagine being in a desert in the Middle East without food or drink? So this was a total fast for 40 days. Now, I've done a 7-day fast, and I've done 3 days on occasion. What do you think the hardest part of it is?
Controlling your mind, because your mind is wanting food and wanting this and.
Okay, it's all in your mind. What do you think the hardest physical thing is?
Not eating.
The first day.
Oh.
The first day.
Yeah.
Once you get past the first day and your system starts to cleanse itself, then your body starts to go to sleep. Your intestinal tract is going to get to relax for the first time in most of our lives. Your kidneys are going to begin to relax because after the first day, they have cleansed the system, and then they begin to cleanse themselves. And what do you think happens at
That
about
makes it sound pretty good.
1.5 days?
It's not as hard.
Hmm?
It's not as hard.
Yeah, that's probably the hardest part. Now, the 3rd day is easy. On the 3rd day, it's not hard. But about about a day and a half into this thing, your kidneys your kidneys and your liver begin to burn up the toxins that are being held in them, because they're your filters. your nutrition and everything you eat, whatever, it goes through your liver. And all the pollution and all the stuff that's in our food that really shouldn't be there, our kidneys and our liver filters that. Well, they keep filtering that out and pushing it out as waste. But they are constantly saturated with this. And they have never been able to rest your entire life until that first fast. Okay? Well, at a day and a half, they start burning up all that pollution stuff, all of those impurities that has been stored in them, and begin to push that out, and you start to get dizzy, and you start to get very, very weak. Because it's burning all that garbage that's being held in your body. And at the end of day 2 and the beginning of day 3, you feel light as a feather. Because that process is done. And for the first time in your life, your intestines got to relax and restore themselves and take a break. Or at least mine. Your stomach, same way. Your kidneys, the same way. Your liver, same way. Now, after the second day, everything kind of goes to sleep, and you don't get hungry anymore. It's amazing. And you feel light as a feather, like you're walking on a cloud. Now, you gotta drink a lot of water. And do not do this if you're diabetic, because you gotta maintain that sugar level. But you'll find out that the first 3 days, your sugar level will be kind of up and down, and then all of a sudden, your body will find what it needs to maintain that sugar level on its own, and it'll start burning fat cells. Okay, and it'll find the nutrition and the fat and the sugar that it needs in there. 40 days, I can imagine. Now, at the end of 7 days, the hardest part's your mind, because you've got this habit of always reaching in the refrigerator. And while I was doing this, I had to do a special study. I had to teach a special study for a church, and I wanted to get it right, and I thought, I need to fast and focus. So I did that, and I can't tell you the number of times I would just get up, walk in the kitchen, and open the refrigerator, and stand there in front of the refrigerator, and it would hit me, there's nothing in there I can have, just go. And I would do it 20 times a day. Because in your mind, it's just built into you to do that. It becomes a habit.
I'd say it'd be the same with any kind of addiction. I mean, food sometimes is an addiction.
Cigarettes is horrible.
I'm sure.
And the worst for me was,
Day three, you don't feel light as a feather.
You wanna rip somebody's head off.
You make it past day 3 cold turkey, then you've got a whoop. But getting to day 3 and it's not, and I wasn't a heavy smoker, but it was breaking the habit of, okay, I'm getting in my truck, getting ready to go to work,
Like
hit
that.
the wing mirror, light it up,
Mhm.
or whatever. And breaking those routines,
Yeah.
plus the nicotine,
Mhm.
and it's wicked.
how long does it take to form a habit?
About 2 seconds.
21
About 2
days, they
seconds.
say.
Yeah, 21 days.
I've heard
21
21
days.
days.
Takes 21 days.
Rob's mentioned that.
And then your body just begins to do it automatically, without thinking. It's just an automatic response to establishing that habit. How long does it take to break it?
Forever.
A long time.
21 days.
It should be 21 days, but
21 days. If you want to break your coffee habit or your Pepsi habit or whatever it is that you know is excessive for you, and I don't know anything about you, so if it's coffee and I stepped on your foot, it's not because I know anything about you. But in order to break that, you have to control it for 21 days. And those 21 days are going to be miserable. They are. Now, why did God make that the first thing for Jesus to do? What was that his first call?
pretty much if you conquer that, you can conquer anything.
Amen.
I
And
mean,
it also showed him what it was like for a human being to be weak. Remember what it says? The devil came to him in his weakness.
Mhm.
And what did he tempt him with?
Food,
Food, power,
power.
and there were three temptations. And those are our three temptations. Don't you kind of want to be in power? Don't you want your kids to do what you tell them to do?
Oh, yes.
Yes, definitely.
Let's get right down to the nitty gritty. I mean, don't you want to be able to say something and your kids be obedient? Well, that puts you in power, right? And you want them to do what you tell them to do. Now, it goes on from there. A lot of people get into the job market and they want to be in power. And some people handle it well and some people don't. You ever had a boss that was unbearable?
Some days. Certain days.
Well, I'm talking about currently, maybe.
Prior bosses,
You
yeah.
shouldn't have pulled her pigtails when you were growing up.
Or somebody in the family that is constant, wants to be dominant and get in your business all the time. Or you're trying to raise your
Yeah.
kids and your mother or your mother-in-law keeps getting in your face about it and telling you what you're doing wrong. That ever happened to you? Yeah.
I'm sure
So some
it
people
is.
handle it well, some people don't. I'm constantly telling Janice,
You're
they're
stepping
not
on
your
it.
kids. You know that old saying, well, some, not a philosopher, a professor of psychology said, in the animal kingdom, the human is the only one that raises their kids to the parent stock.
Yep.
Everybody else pushes them out of the nest. And I don't know about you, but
Yep, we're still raising.
we tend to get involved.
And then we start on the next generation.
I kind of like to relax and enjoy my grandkids, and Janice still wants to raise them. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to relax and let their mother raise them, and I'm going to enjoy them. And probably enjoy being the favorite. Good day.
There's more of that power.
All right. So what's it say? It says, he took not on the nature of angels. He didn't come as a spiritual being. He came as a physical being. But he took on him the seed of Abraham, or he became like a man. Okay? Wherefore, in all things, it behooved him to be made like unto his brother. In every way, he is like us. That means he was totally and completely human. Now later on we're going to see that he was totally and completely God at the same time. And the mystery of that I can't explain to you. I can explain to you what taking on a body was like in certain aspects of it. But I can't explain to you how it could be both and be totally both at the same time. Okay. But we know that he had real struggles. He went out there with a human body and fasted for 40 days. He sweat blood in the garden when he prayed and said, Father, if it can be, remove this from me. And then the Spirit took over and he said, but nevertheless, thy will be done. I'll do it if I have to. But his body was saying, no, we don't want to do this. But his Spirit was saying, we have to do it. This is why we came. This is why we're here. Right? Why? That he might be merciful, and that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in things pertaining to God. Okay, what's merciful mean? When people are dealing with you about something, do they always tend to be merciful?
No.
No.
Not at all.
No? They generally tend to be mean. Okay? So they want their way and they want you to do what they want them to do, and a lot of times it's not a pretty situation. God needed to be merciful. In other words, he needed to understand what I'm going through, and to do that, he had to go through it. Who's the best person to minister to an alcoholic?
An
A
alcoholic.
recovering alcoholic.
A recovered alcoholic.
Yeah.
Not an alcoholic, a recovered alcoholic. Somebody who's won the victory, somebody who's walked in those shoes, somebody who's fought that fight and has the victory and can have empathy with the person in that struggle. I don't have any idea what it's like to be an alcoholic. I know what it's like to drink a nice glass of wine, but I don't know what it's like to be controlled by it. As I look at that, I think to myself, what is going on there? Why is he doing that? I haven't walked in those shoes, so I'm not good at that. Now, there are things that I've been through that I can really help you with, because I had to fight and fight and fight to get the victory over those things. And you could name something too, couldn't you? You can name something that you struggled with, and why do you think God put you through that?
Hopefully to help somebody else.
He put you through that so you could minister down the road to somebody else who's going to be going through the exact same thing. And how did you get through it? Did somebody help you? Somebody?
You've
You know,
never had an addiction.
Not bad.
Remember when he was in the
But
garden
troubles
and he was
problems and
struggling
stuff,
so
yes.
much? What did God do?
You goofball.
You're a good man.
When he was in the garden, he was struggling so much. What did God do? He sent angels to minister to him. At the end of the temptation, when he had won the victory over those temptations, what did God do? He sent angels to minister to him and give him something to eat, give him something to drink. God is always there, ready to help you. And once you realize that and get the victory over that situation, whatever it is, be ready, because you went through that for a reason, and that reason's going to come up, and you're going to get your turn to pass it on and to help somebody else through it, so that they can help somebody else do it, so that they can help somebody else do it. Okay. God never makes you do it for no reason. Why did he make Job go through 50 chapters, or 39, I forget, 50, I think. Why did he make him go through all that? So we could read Job and understand what's going on behind the scenes. Because it was Satan behind the scenes, right? Okay. So, we never are asked to go through anything for no reason. We are always asked to go through it for a purpose later on. All right. He might be merciful and faithful high priest. What's priest? What's the word mean in Hebrew? Bridge.
Bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody who can bridge the gap between us and God. Because we can't go before God in our sinful nature. We need somebody in between us, and our bridge, our high priest, is Jesus Christ. In things pertaining to God, to make reconciliation for the sins of the people. Okay, how's he going to do that? I mean, they had killed 10 million lambs by this point. They had been killing lambs for 2,000 years and sacrificing them every Passover to God for the sins of the people. Had anything gotten any better? No. If anything, it said, this ain't working. I mean, maybe it covered me for the last year, but who's going to cover me tomorrow? How am I going to fix tomorrow? I haven't gotten getting any better. I need help. Okay. So, how is he going to cover the sins of the people?
Dying on the cross.
Died on the cross. It said on the cross, he became the most sinful man that ever lived. And he had never committed one sin. So how was he that sinful?
He took on all of ours.
Mhm.
He had my sins poured on him. Remember when God turned his face away and Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me? You know what happened there? All the sins of the world were poured on him, and God had to turn his face away because God cannot be in the presence of sin. Because if we go into an almighty God with a sinful nature, his glory destroys us. God had to turn his face away and leave him hang there. He had to, because my sins were on him. And then he descended into Hades for 3 days and took my place there. And we'll talk about that later. Hath suffered, being tempted, he is able to achieve or succor them that are tempted. Now, another reason why he had to be human. If you go to James chapter 1, it says, God does not tempt anyone, nor can he be tempted. All right? So, in the nature of the Spirit, in the nature of God, you can't tempt God. What's God going to be? What are you going to tempt God with? He doesn't need a car. What of mine could he be envious of? Everything I've got belongs to him anyway.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing in this universe that God needs me to give him except praise. Okay? God cannot be tempted because he has everything, and if he needs something tomorrow that he doesn't have today, he just creates it. God can't be tempted. So how can he have a feeling for what it's like for me to be tempted? That's why Jesus was weakened for 40 days and then subjected to temptation. Because he really knew what it was like to be tempted. I mean, he had to be the weakest man around at that point in time. Okay, let's read Hebrews 4. Any questions on that? Okay, Hebrews 4, 15, 16.
For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize and understand our weaknesses and temptations, but one who has been tempted in every respect as we are, yet without sin. Therefore let us approach the throne of grace, the throne of God's, with confidence and without fear, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need.
This is the conclusion of the first verse we read. For we have not a high priest that cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities. He felt what it was like to be slandered. He felt what it was like to be gossiped against. He felt what it was like to be hungry. He felt what it was like to be afraid. How do you sweat blood in the garden? Now, there's been instances in intensive battles where when the soldiers were over, they had no wounds, but they were covered with blood. And they actually found out that the stress was so bad and their muscles were so tense, it pushed the blood out the end of the capillaries and out the pores of the skin. They were so terrified and they were so afraid at the intensity of the battle that they actually did what Jesus did. Well, in order for that to happen, there has to be intense fear. There has to be intense stress. And so he went through that in the garden, and he knew what I went through when people were shooting at me. He knew what I went through when people lied against me. He knew what I went through when I had a close call. He knew what I went through when the ladder broke. Both times. He which cannot be touched with the feeling of their infirmities. He knows what that feeling is. But as in all points, tempted like as we are. For what reason? Yet without sin. Why is that important?
For him, it's an understanding. He knows what we're going through and what we're dealing with, but yet he's still able to overcome it. He's still able to not give in to it. And there again, he has to be without sin. Otherwise, if he's just going to be just like us, then his crucifixion, his death is meaningless.
Then it can't be the blameless lamb.
Right.
Okay. I'll put a different word in than you did. He had the victory. He won the victory. I failed. You failed. All men have sinned and come short of the glory of God. He is the one man that didn't. And when he won that victory, it also became my victory. He won it for me. He didn't need to win it. He could have just sat on the throne for eternity and listened to the angels sing and had a fine old life, but he looked down on me and he said, somebody's got to fix this for Bill because he's not going to make it. So I'll go take his place. And I will not fall for the temptations that he's fallen for. And when I receive the victory and when I get the crown, I'm going to give it to him. And he can rest in peace knowing that it's coming. Have you ever known anybody you'd do that for?
Yes.
And have you known anybody that was so miserable and so desperate that you'd be willing to sacrifice your kid to save them? Look how the Father did it. Think about what that sacrifice was. I can't imagine saying, well, I know you need a heart and you're going to die, but my daughter's saved and so she's going to go to heaven, so I'm going to let you have hers. Are you kidding me? I don't know anybody that would do that. And the bottom line is, God the Father did and put his son down here in this social cesspool that we live in and says, win the victory for him. And he did. Okay. Let us therefore come. I know.
I just didn't want you to get into something else I'm gonna miss.
Let us therefore come boldly, just 1 minute. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace. Notice what it says. We can now approach God boldly, not in fear and trepidation. We can walk up to God and say, God, heal this cancer. God, answer this prayer. We can come into God boldly and find grace to help us in all of our needs, in the time of need, in all of our needs. That's why he had to be a human. All right. The next week we'll hit number 2 on this first aspect, to secure a real victory. And there's verses. Okay, see you next week.
All right.
I
Bless you.
could stay in here all day, but I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, I
I don't want him to get mad at me.
know. No. No, I need somebody to do it. Because I get focused and I don't know what time it is.
He opened the door and I thought,
If somebody were to come in here and need to hang around in here, but everybody, I watch them, they all go around.
Yeah, we're going around
Yeah.
that way.
Stretch it a little bit, but we do need to cut it off and get there.
don't want the boss mad.
Okay, I'm gonna turn this off.
What's this?
That goes into the kitchen. Well, it was clean when I had it in my bag. It's now it's dirty. I'll take it home and wash it again.
What?
Never mind.
I thought maybe you had something in it.
No, it was supposed to be clean. I brought it home, brought it back.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope you enjoy it. Oh, I'm sure I will.